What is up? What is up? What is up, everybody? It is your boy Drillville back in the building today. Well, let's get me. Hope you guys are having a good night tonight. Let's go ahead and do the do. Tonight, we're gonna get ahead and get straight into some gameplay and a special treat for you guys tonight. We're gonna do a little bit of two things tonight. So right now I'm still currently on the air support mission in Arma 3 East Wind. And we are continuing our journey in that. Also, I'm going to be listening to a war veteran's story while we do so. So without further ado, make sure you guys hit that like, that comment, that subscribe, all of them love buttons for me, and let's get straight into it.
Nick Irving, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, brother.
We have, I've been tracking you for a long time, years, and been trying to get your attention, and then finally, about 6 months ago-ish?
Yeah.
I finally got through to you, and man, I'm just honored to have you here, and I think you're a great representation of the community that you come from, the Ranger community, and I'm really excited to dive into this, so
kind words, man. Thank you.
My
Hope
pleasure.
I live up to it, you know?
You will. There's not a doubt in my mind. But starting off with your introduction here. So you're a husband and father. You've been married for 16 years, going on 17.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's crazy, man. I've been getting, there's like a 90-something% divorce rate in special ops?
Yeah. One guy that was killed, there's another number one. And I lost the itch thereafter. The show was called Master of Arms. It was like Forged in Fire, where they would forge stuff.
Yeah.
And I was one of the judges, but I would just test the weapons. And I just had a bad experience with that. And then thereafter, I was supposed to do a TV show with Tim Kennedy and a few other snipers. And it was my second go around with that stuff. And I just kind of lost the itch after it. I guess the Hollywood lifestyle.
Yeah.
I've done like the Transformers stuff, and
You were in Transformers too?
yeah, Transformers. Then I helped with the show or the movie The Wall. Terrible movie. It was like it's like a 2-star movie on Amazon, but it's called The Wall, and it was a cool experience because I got a chance to hang with one of my good friends, is John Cena. We've been hanging out since like 2015, I believe. 14 or 15, good guy, and it was cool to work with him. But other than that, and the guy who did Jason Bourne, the director, cool experience. But it was just I lost the taste after that.
Yeah.
All the stuff that is going on in Hollywood that you hear about, I've had my taste of nothing along those lines.
I think since I don't have much time tonight, guys, we're gonna go ahead and just try out one of the DLCs I got, which is the desert one. Since this is about his story, which was obviously a modern day time.
Positive.
So,
By any
let's try it out.
But moving on. So I have a subscription account on Patreon. They have been here since the beginning. They're top supporters. And so I give them an opportunity to ask every guest possible a question.
Mm-hmm.
And so here is a question from Stephen Casey. What is the best decision that you've ever made, and how has that helped you?
That's the first question.
Yeah, that's a tough
deep one. Wow. What's the best decision I've ever made? And how has it helped me? Stop caring so much. That's probably been the best decision. Stop caring so much about the outside and care more so about what's on the inside. Meaning, what's going on in my life, observing that, how I'm feeling emotionally, the issues that I've had, acknowledging that, taking care of that, even if I wasn't taking care of it, when I first started to acknowledge it. It was
Are you talking about quit paying attention to external influences?
yes, yes.
Man, that's crazy. I was just on a podcast yesterday, and I said the exact same thing.
Really?
That's crazy.
Hey, man. I was remote viewing, and I heard you say that. That's what happened. But that's like the best thing or best advice that I've taken from myself was, so yeah, stop caring so much about the external forces and things that are out of my control. I can't control what other people think, what they believe, what they, want to believe about me or anything. I can't control that. Only thing I can control is myself. So not worrying so much about the outside, just more so about taking care of me. Like when we die, we're all going to go in that casket by ourselves, And I think that is my biggest takeaway, knowing that at the end of the day, it's just going to be me anyways. So I really shouldn't have to care about the outside forces and other things that I can't control, I have to stand before the judge by myself at the end, so.
Yeah, that's, man, that's great. I'm glad you said that. What led you to start looking internally instead of externally? And how did that, affect your daily life, maybe your business life, anything?
I would say the birth of my son. So, long story, I've always wanted a family, like a kid. I wanted two originally. I still want two, just the way things are. I don't have control over that. But I knew before I turned 30, I said before I turn 30, my 30th birthday, I want to have my first child. Fast forward, my 30th birthday, on the date, my son pops out. Being there and witnessing that, seeing that, and the struggle that he had to go through, he was born with like a weird heart condition. It's healed up, thankfully now. But it was hard to watch and not have to feel so much power.
Yo, this DLC looks really fucking good. Way better than the main game so far.
Yeah, having no control of that circumstance and realizing, like, I guess how important life really is, It all came in that moment. And that's when the switch went on of, like nothing really matters. And I wanted to be there for him in the long run. So that's when the switch definitely changed. Yeah, I wanted to stick around.
How did it affect your life?
Oh man, drastically.
We've got a lucrative
I was too caught up in
Don't fuck it up. Any questions?
outside circumstances,
All right,
outside forces
Let's
that I
unass
had
and
no
move
control
out.
over. I was too caught up in the outside world, and having that center point, that center focus being my son, and like everything, I guess went away. If you want to, all the issues that I had, not issues, but my perspective of what was important in life changed. And what was important for me would be able to raise my son and be there for him. So it definitely helped out as far as ignoring what everybody else thought. I wanted my son to think, my dad is the, coolest. I can go to my dad at any time, no matter what. I'm gonna be, I'm always gonna be his dad. I can't always be what some guy on the internet or some family member wants me to be. I can't be that. I can't be all those things at once, but what I can be is better for my son. So yeah.
Man, thanks for sharing that.
I appreciate it.
But before we get in, man, we're already starting to get deep here. But
Right.
but before we get into your life story, and that's what I want to do, we're going to start the childhood, go into your military career, go into your transition, civilian career, businesses that you run, and but before we do that, everybody gets a gift.
What do we got, man?
Everybody gets a
Oh.
gift.
We just talked about this.
That we did.
The gummies, man.
We did. Now those
Dude.
are made in the USA and are legal in all 50 states.
They are legal.
Yeah. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know.
Oh, I can make it work, man. I can make it work. Dude, my wife used to send me pounds of these overseas. Pounds. I ate in one sitting a full pound of gummy bears, and by the time it came out, I had one large gummy bear in the toilet.
Oh man, but
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. But so let's dive in. Let's start with childhood. Where did you grow up?
Grew up, well, born in Augsburg, Germany. Both of my parents were counterintelligence in the army during the Cold War time, copying Morse code, deciphering Morse code, and sending it off to the NSA, I believe, at the time. After they left the army, or during that transition, we moved from Augsburg to Florida. I stayed in Florida for about a year, in Pensacola, a year or two. My mom retired. My dad stayed in for a little bit longer, and we moved to Maryland at this place, at a place called, what was on Walker Drive, near Fort Meade, near NSA. Not on Fort Meade, the base, but near it. It was like a government housing, and stayed there from 80, geez, I forget the.
Oh, I love this.
I want to say 89 or 90 to 93. Stayed in this haunted house that was built on a graveyard and cemetery, and
Legitimately haunted?
legitimately haunted.
All right, we got to dive into this.
Legit, bro. Like,
Hold on. How old are you?
I was at the time, 4 or 5 years old. Yeah,
Okay.
4 or 5 years old. That was my first experience I'll never forget this experience. So I'm laying in bed on this, you can look up this old place. It's Walker Drive, Fort Meade, near Fort Meade. There's no more houses there. It's just all built up and torn down. But lived in this all brick house that was connected to another home that if you poked the hole through the wall, you could see the neighbors in the adjacent room. Few 100-square-foot home, very, very, very small. And my dad would always say if you stood in the front door, you could spit and you'd hit the backyard. This very small home. So as a kid, we would always hear like people running upstairs, footsteps, and my parents would, ignore it. It's just a house creaking or whatever. And these footsteps would start to come down the stairs. You'd hear heavy footsteps just going around upstairs, and they start to go downstairs, and they would stop. A few other times you would hear conversations, but like whispers, or like staticky whispers on a radio station you couldn't tune into all the way. And as a kid, you don't think too much of it. You just hear stuff. But the scariest, most traumatizing, if you want to call it that, experience that I've had, I was laying in bed, and to this day, I'm paranoid of sleeping on my back because of it. Laying in bed on my back, and something woke me up. And I see a soldier who, at the time, I had no idea what his uniform looked like. It was different than my dad's. I didn't find out later that it was like a old Civil War style uniform. And I see a soldier walk past my doorway. I rub my eyes, put the blankets over my head, rub them some more, and look back down. And now it's not just one, there's soldiers, a line of them, walking, and they would turn to go down the stairs into the main living room space. Maybe 10 soldiers passed by. The last soldier, he got in my doorway, turned, looked, and started to walk into my room towards me. Jumped out of my bed, ran through him into the bathroom, curled up on the toilet, and started screaming. My dad runs out, and I'm screaming at him, please don't spank me, because that's what normally would happen. And he came in, grabbed me, held me, and I told him what I saw as best as I could, and he says, I know, son, I know. I saw it too. That was my first real ghost experience.
Whoa, he did see it too?
Yeah, well, to pass by, his room was to the left of my room. And yeah, so I guess they were coming out the wall in the hallway, walking past his door and my door before they went downstairs. And he saw it, I saw it, terrified me. And the looks of their clothes, never forget. The uniforms they wore the long gun with the musket, or not musket, but it had a long, not sword, but knife, bayonet at the tip of it. and they were marching with the little cap hats down the stairs. I had never seen that uniform a day in my life, and I won't forget it. And the last guy walking into my room, yeah.
Did you have more experiences?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had one, I guess more recent, when within the past 15 years or so, I was working at a gun range called Rifles Only. It's a big precision rifle training facility. And me and one of the instructors, his name's Win, and we're driving down this dirt road to get to where the facility is. It's at nighttime. We had just gotten back from the bar. I wasn't drinking. I was designated driver, but I was sitting passenger seat. But regardless, we're driving, and I hear, it sounded like a radio came on, the static, and I heard this old lady chuckling, laughing, and saying something. I couldn't understand what she was saying, but it sounded like she was in the floorboard. That's what it sounded like. And I look at him, and he looks over at me, and it was completely went off, stopped. He looks over at me, and he's like, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Dude, you heard that, right?" And he's like, "It's not my radio." He had an old pickup truck. The wires are all over the place, and it's an old beat-up pickup truck. Radio does not work. And we just kind of ignored it after that. Never talked about it. He didn't want to believe it, but we both heard what we heard. It was an old lady in the floorboard talking to some, I don't know what she was saying. So old lady.
Whoa.
When, if you're out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Damn.
But that's my experience.
Well, let's go back to childhood. So you grew up in a haunted house in Maryland.
Yep. And it was built on a cemetery. That was like pretty much, and as a kid, I remember, okay, so this is the weird portion. My mom, her side of the family, my grandmother, they've been introduced to like voodoo or magic. And I knew this trick as a kid of how to listen to hell, with a sewing needle and a cup, and, to listen to the screams of hell. I don't know if I never heard anything, but you hear, I think it's just the echo inside the cup. But we would leave a devil pie for the devil or whatever. We would make it out of mud and stuff like that. Me and my next door neighbor, Kia and Tasha, 2 girls, and we were doing stuff like that as kids, like weird stuff like that. My sister, another scary story for you. We hear a knock on the door, or she did, and she goes to the back door, and there's 2 women standing there in all white. There's no white people where we live at. There's 2 blonde hair ladies standing at the door. They took her out to the playground, and when she came back, she learned how to make where you take a gallon of milk, cut it out to make a bird feeder. And she came back with that, and the ladies taught her how to make it, but there were no ladies. So, yeah, that was another incident.
Wow.
I don't know if she knows that one vividly.
Very strange.
That. Yeah.
Very strange. How many siblings did you have?
At that time, living with us, we had 3. So me, my younger sister, and my older sister. And I have another sister I just found out about like a year ago. And my brother, I thought was my friend when I first met him. In Florida, I thought that this kid was cool, but turned out he was my brother too. So I have, that I know of, 5.
Holy shit.
Yeah, my dad was getting around, man. He was getting around.
Right on. Well, let's go back. So you grew up around voodoo?
I knew about it. Like different spells and stuff like that, if you want to call it that. Like how to make a woman fall in love with you, how a woman, if she makes a guy fall in love with her, how to listen to hell and stuff like that. But
How would these subjects get broached in your household?
my grandmother, at the time when she grew up around it more, my mom had a spell put on her supposedly. And it made her stomach swell up with, they don't know what. But she used to steal oranges and stuff off of people's trees in Georgia. and one of the neighbors in where she lived at on this dirt road and told her to stop doing it or she was going to put a spell on her. And she hung up something in the tree. My mom ate it and she got like inflated or something. So that's where we got, I guess, introduced to it. And my cousins, the older ones, they would teach us stuff too. Like, don't eat spaghetti from a chick you just met, or if she offers it to you.
Why?
Because yeah, you want to know, I guess?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, it's nasty. But her mention.
Oh, I like this game.
Making the sauce for the pasta. They would use that and give it to the guy to make the guy fall in love. Or that attachment. And for a guy to do it, he would use his underarm sweat and cook it in that noodle water, put his underarm sweat in it to make a female do the same thing.
Are you serious? Is this stuff real? I mean, what do you think?
I've never been.
You didn't pull that on your wife, did you?
No. And if I did, I wouldn't tell her. No. That was destined to be, I think.
How prevalent was that in your household? I mean, was that?
My parents did. They had like a Ouija board and stuff, and back before they had, I guess, their religious awakening, well, we had a Ouija board and stuff like that. But I was never exposed greatly to it. It was more so like my dad would show us how to lift people when they sit in the chair and you stack your hands up on top of them until you all feel the heat rise up, and then you lift the person out of the chair and they float, stuff like that. But that's like,
What, he taught you how to do that.
yeah.
What? Let's go into that. I've never heard anything like
Really?
this. I've never.
Yeah.
I've never.
Wow.
I don't know anything about this stuff.
So you sit in a chair, right? Like a stool or a little chair. And you have one person on each. So you have one person on this knee, this elbow, and one at the back of the face of the neck.
Touching or sitting or?
Not touching yet. Then they're all standing around you. The person in the chair is sitting, everybody else is standing around you. Then they take their hands and they stack their right hand first, and then they stack their left hand on top of that. So it's a big pattern. Each one is stacking over and over until all the hands are complete. Then when the top hand says they feel the heat, and everybody's going to be calling out, I feel the heat. When they feel the whatever is rising up through their hand, when it gets to the top person, they all go like this, and they touch this side, this elbow, and the person at the back of the neck does that, and you lift the person up, and they float.
You seen this happen?
Yeah. I've done it to my sister, me and my cousins.
Are you serious?
Swear to God. Yeah.
I gotta look this up.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Like they're legitimately floating.
Legitimately, well, you're touching them, and they're in the air.
It's like some levitation stuff.
Like that. But they're not, you don't let go. You keep your fingertips on them. And I think that's where the energy goes back into them, and they lower back down. Yeah.
Whoa.
You should look it up. Yeah.
I will look it up.
Definitely.
Wow.
We'll do it one time. Need some more people. But it's legit.
Holy shit.
Yeah. My dad used to do, he did it in the Army during a, what do you call those things where, like a talent contest or something like that, where they were just like some people would go up and like sing or a talent.
Yeah, talent show.
Talent show. And that's what my dad did with some of his coworkers. And they had the biggest guy sit in the chair, and he had females do it, all women, and they lifted up the biggest guy in their unit out of the chair. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. I totally
Really?
wasn't expected to go down this road.
Yeah. 100%, man.
So what is it? Is it a religion?
Well, not really necessarily. Like voodoo comes from Africa, and it was like, according to who you talk to or what the belief is, that was our original religion, but it was not religion. It was just a spirituality of the manipulation of the spirit world. And that's what they practiced before religion was introduced. And They were killed and stuff like that for practicing what they perceived to be is black magic from black people's magic. So they said no more and introduced a different form of spirituality, which I'm not against. I think that I think all religion is a form of magic. Even prayer is a form of magic, you know? It's just the belief that you're putting something into the spirit realm, asking a deity or an entity to whatever you want. Ask and you shall receive. As above, so below, as within, so without, all these things. So they all coincide with each other. I think all roads lead to Rome. It's just how we interpret and practice different beliefs.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Back to childhood.
Yeah.
So what were you, other than voodoo,
Yeah.
what were you into as a kid? I mean, what grabbed your interest?
Wow. I love space. I used to want to be an astronaut. My dad was a big space geek. He was always, taking me outside to look through the telescope to look at the moon and look at the stars and show me where Orion's belt was at and how to find the North Star, the Big Dipper, Little Dipper. Like I teach my son this stuff, at his age now, and he's 7. But, how to find north, south, east, and west, and different star constellations and how to read them. So I've always wanted to be an astronaut. Like originally, that was my first dream. So for fun, pretending I was an astronaut, making cardboard boxes, and wanting to blast off into space. That was like my original dream until my dad showed me Chuck Norris Delta Force and Charlie Sheen Navy SEALs. Then my whole perspective of what I wanted to do changed. And then school. I got into school and I wasn't like too great at it. And the astronaut thing was out of the window.
Why weren't you great at school? You weren't into it, or?
I wasn't really into it. Like first grade was easy. Anybody can say that. But I just like to play. And I like to joke around, and I don't know if I had like ADHD or something like that, but it was hard for me to focus. And the way
I think I broke my legs.
I guess I still do read. Like for me, I would read one sentence and build that story, as opposed to reading the whole paragraph and then building it as you go along. I would break each sentence out of that paragraph or chapter into my mind to build that story. And I guess it just took too long, and I wasn't great at math and anything. So started to realize I wasn't great at school in like the 2nd or 3rd grade, and that's when I used to get into a lot of trouble at home for not bringing home, good grades. So, yeah. And after the haunted house, I moved to a little bit near near the city portion of Baltimore, Maryland. Not this city, but in Maryland. And that's where I stayed from 1993 to 2004 when I graduated. And that's where we spent my entire life, pretty much.
What did you enjoy doing as a kid? Were you an athlete, like to be out in the woods?
Yeah, I love being in the woods with my granddad. We would take trips to this small place called Hogansville, Georgia. Small spot in Georgia. And my granddad had a lot of land. So, yeah, the whole, slave lineage, my great-great-great-granddad was a slave, and a slave owner, I'm sorry. And ended up raping one of the women, and so we come from that lineage, and that land and that plot of land ended up staying with the family because the guy who was a white guy who was a slave owner, of course, and having a relationship and with one of the slaves and mistresses, whatever you want to call her, and somehow that land, because he loved her, got inherited to our family, and he has a bunch of land out there, and yeah. My grandmother and my mom picked cotton and cleaned homes for people. So yeah, it was like that. But I would go down there in the summertime, and I loved being outdoors with him. He would take me hunting and showed me how to shoot my first gun, which was a 20 gauge shotgun, and how to farm. So I like farming. I'm not a farmer, but I like to grow and plant and maintain the crops and stuff. And I like doing that as a kid. Yeah, and then I guess around middle school is where I got into the whole sniper thing, and well, the 6th grade. My mom helped me make my first ghillie suit out of yarn, green yarn, sewing yarn, and a black jumpsuit that I had, and I called that my first ghillie suit. Laying outside in the field or in the grass and trying to scare people, and then I actually learned how to make a ghillie suit in middle school with the burlap
we're getting
on
close.
uniform, and yeah, hiding out in my front yard, sneaking home from school or pretending to be sick, so I could come home from school early. So when the kids got off the school bus, I could scare them when they got off the school bus, and sometimes take pop shots with a little BB gun and stuff like that. They're all my friends and stuff, but that's what we used to do as kids. Shoot each other with the one pump, BB guns, and yeah, so that was like my thing, I guess, as a kid. Sports-wise, I was never great. I tried them all, minus tennis and golf. You know, my best friend, Andre, his granddad is a Vietnam vet, and he had golf clubs, and we stole his one day, and I ended up getting in trouble, but it was cool to, I guess the concept of golf, I think, was okay. I just never, like, could hit the ball good. So, wasn't good at that. Sucked at soccer. Football, I was okay. I just liked to hit people, and I was, like, never really great, though. By far. I had no future in it. Basketball, too short, you know. Not great at it either. So, sports, no.
Took out the target.
So pretty average kid, not
Yeah.
not a tremendous amount of athletic ability, not great in school.
Mm-hmm.
What was the home life like? Were you close with your parents and siblings?
No. So my older sister, our second oldest, she was in and out for the beginning portion of my life, my younger years. She would be in and out for a year or two. So we never really had like a close relationship. She had my back when I would get into fights. I got into a lot of fights, and she would help out when she could, but she was always gone too. My younger sister, she's always been there. We had the same mom and dad, and we're tight, we're close. Just like your average brother and sister. Like we fight, we used to always fight. She's tough, but other than that, it was, I think, as far as my family, my mom and dad, you know, they didn't know how to love. In their defense, and they've been open about that, they didn't know how to love. They come from a broken home that, you know, for fun, my dad would get beat up by his dad and his 8 brothers and sisters, and my mom's 8 sisters and brothers. Like, that's what the dads did in the household. They would get wasted and beat the kids with whatever objects they could find.
Oh man.
Yeah, so they didn't know how to, and that lineage has just, you know, gone on and gone on. So when I popped out and we did it, they didn't know how to love or how to show emotion. My mom was never told by her dad that he loved her for, you know, her entire life. My dad's dad died when he was in the 6th grade, and yeah, and then it was just a hard lifestyle for them. They were both poor, yeah, very poor. So they didn't know how to love. So for me, how my parents would deal with anything was violence. Was by that. So it was like that.
Do you think that affects you to this day, or
100%.
really?
100%. Me and my sister were having a conversation about it because she has issues too. She was raped as a kid, and yeah, by a close friend. Yeah, it was not the best childhood, but As far as it affecting us now, 100%. I tried, and I don't want to be like that, so I stay away from that. But because I know what it does to a child, and I don't want that for my son. But for my sister and I, it's 100% affects us to this day. Not many friends like that. We push people away a lot, This is gonna sound weird, but like we weren't allowed to have friends like that. My parents were very, controlling in that nature of who we could hang out with, who could be our friends, and it was.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I've questioned that so much, and I don't know. I at one point I thought it was because they did not want the word to get out that I get spanked and or beat, at least 3-4 times a week, and that was normal. That was extremely normal. But whether you didn't do anything or if someone was having a bad day, or it didn't matter. You just always felt that you weren't good enough. So it was my fault that I just was not being a good son. So it was, in my mind, it made sense why I would get spanked and beat. Looking back at it, of course, I don't think that was the reason. I know I wasn't a bad kid, But then also, growing up, I had, my next door neighbor, the only friend, my friend to this day, Andre. We've helped each other a lot. I've seen his mom be beaten by her boyfriends, and I've had to help with his mom, and I've seen him and his brother get absolutely destroyed by their 250-pound dad, or stepdad at the time. I just grew up around that, so it wasn't like my next door neighbors sold drugs, and I've seen them fight, and with people who owed them money or whatever, and it was just normal. So I didn't feel like I had it that bad,
How did you and your sister navigate your way through that?
Stayed in our room. Yeah, mainly for her. I would stay outside as long as I could, but it always felt like if I was having too much fun, my dad would cut it short. Yeah. Like, come inside and do something. Go clean up something. Or, it never really felt like I was allowed to be me or have that much fun without having mom or dad, whatever, pick something out and bash you for it,
Damn, man.
Yeah.
What would you say to kids that are growing up in abusive environments today?
Wow.
If you had a piece of advice?
Man. It's gonna end one day. If you have someone to talk to. But it's just the whole, you have to be careful about it. I get it that you don't want to get anyone in trouble in the wrong way, and you don't want to also get yourself in even more trouble. That's a tough one. I mean, for me, what I did, but I don't think it's the healthiest way. Just know it's going to end one day. And I wanted to leave my home at a young age, young age. And couldn't wait to leave home. I haven't been back since like that. So it's going to end one day. Staying strong, and that's like, it sucks not having, I've never thought about that. I don't know. It's a really tough one. I can just, go by my experience, but also see what that's done to me and my family. It's not safe.
Did you ever run away?
Yeah.
How young were you when that started?
Oh my. Old enough to where I thought running away was where you take a stick and a bandana and you tie it at the end of it and put your stuff in there. And I went like down the block and stayed for a few hours and realized I don't have anywhere to sleep. So I went back home and I ran away to my friend's house one time, and I knew that if I stayed away too long, that when I got back, my parents would destroy me. So I just came back and got the lesser spanking as opposed to, getting laid on pretty good.
Wow. So you graduated 2004?
Yeah.
And what happened then?
I signed the contract while in high school. I was so in the 10th and 11th grade, I went to Annapolis. I was in ROTC and I was in Navy Sea Cadet Corps. And I went to this baby SEAL program where you have to, like, to get in, you take the real SEAL PFT or test where I think it was like a 500-meter swim in 12 minutes, 30 seconds or something, and 2.5-mile run and pull-ups, sit-ups, and it's to the standard. But did that at 16, got scuba qualified. My whole route was Navy SEAL, and it didn't pan out that way. I'm colorblind, and Navy didn't want me. So in my senior year is when I signed the Army contract, and I had to get the parental consent from my parents to sign me off. And 2 weeks after I graduated, I was on the bus at the airport to go to Fort Benning.
Real quick, so you wanted to be a SEAL.
Yeah.
Couldn't get in because you were colorblind.
Mm-hmm.
How did Rangers come out? How did they get introduced to you?
So I failed the color vision test the first time, and it was called the Easy Horror Test. Like this book, and you see the numbers in that pattern of colors. And I didn't see any number except for the number you're not supposed to see. And they told me I was colorblind, and I could not be a SEAL or anything of that nature. I had like a very small, I guess, list of jobs that I could do in the Navy, none of which I wanted to do. And my ASVAB score was not high enough to get those jobs. So I came back and I studied online dial-up internet. Not dial-up, it ran on a modem, but I downloaded all the Easy Horror tests that I possibly could think of or find on the internet at the time, and I studied them and the answers. So when I went back, hopefully, when I retake the test, I could pass it because I studied the test and I know the answers to it. I went back a month or two later, not even 2 months, maybe like a month later. And instead of the Easy Horror test, they had this weird light test. And it looked like a traffic light, but different colors of light. And I completely failed that one too. So I broke down, I'm crying, and next door, this Army chick, nurse, she heard me crying. She came in, or as I'm walking out, she peeked her head into the doorway and said, come over to her room. Went over there, and it was an Army recruiter there she was talking to, and she introduced me to him, and he started talking about, do I know what Army Rangers are and Green Berets? I was like, well, I know what a Green Beret is, but I'm not too fond of what a Ranger is. I saw them in Black Hawk Down, but I didn't like what they were doing. It was not what Delta was doing. So I thought, I didn't really know what a Ranger is. And he said, well, they're like Navy SEALs, but they don't swim. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I can do that then. And the lady who was going to administer the color vision test, she held out the book and she traced her fingers on the number. So I just called it out. I was like, 12, 5, and I couldn't see anything. And I still have the document where I had 0 out of 14 to 14 out of 14 of my color vision test.
Wow.
And that's how I got into the Army.
Damn, no kidding.
Yeah.
And 9/11 had already happened.
Yeah.
So this is 2004 time frame, so we're already at war.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you wanted to do?
Oh, 100%, 100%. After I saw what happened, and like some of the seniors during that time were in ROTC, they were going to go off and, join the military too, and I just didn't want to feel like left out and missed the party. I already felt like I missed the party, but I wanted to at least get in and contribute some type of way. I had no other option. I couldn't do college. I graduated with the 1.7 GPA from high school, and I barely pulled that off. So it was the only option for me was the military. And yeah, I went there after 9/11 and knew I was going to deploy once I found out exactly what Rangers do. Granted, as long as I made it. If I made it, then I knew for a fact I was going to go to combat. So that was partially my driving force. The other was I grew up telling my, best friend Andre and, my family that I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to. I can't come back. So to fail and not make that would mean, it was not an option. I couldn't let it happen. I had to do it.
What about the sniper thing?
Not always wanted to be a sniper. Since ghillie suit days is when I wanted to be a sniper. Like, I was a decent shot as a kid growing up and going out to the country. I was okay, but not like, anything that would make me stand out. But the sniper thing came after. So for us, it is you go through, at the time it was called RIP. This was after basic and after airborne. Make it through airborne, overcome my fear of heights, my shattered tibia, fibia, pull that off, and going on to RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. It was like a month, I believe. I want to say it was a month long. And all it was just a beatdown fest of, you just get smoked. We had 95 or 98 guys going in, and we graduated 6 from that original class and 7 with the rollover. So we had a 7-man graduation and made it through that and got into battalion.
So that's less than 10%.
Yeah, that was a weird class. It was a brutal class. It was bad. It was a smoke fest. After that is when they slowly started to come out with RAS.
How long is RIP?
At that time, it was like a month long, a little over a month, I think.
What is it a selection process?
Yeah. It's a selection to get to battalion, the 75th. Now it's called RAS, Ranger Assessment Selection Program, or I forget what it's called. But now it's RAS, and it's essentially the same thing, but they've extended it to where they teach you something now. So when you get to the battalion, you're just not like some guy who's just beat up, weak private who can't do the basics of a door breach, breaching a door, clearing a room. So now they've incorporated that. Back then it wasn't like that, and so yeah, we graduated. I go into battalion. I get there right as my guys were coming back from Afghanistan. I did an entire train up with them, and I deployed to CRIT, Iraq.
Hold on. Before we get into the deployments of
yeah.
the regiment, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about what it was like for you showing up at the regiment.
Oh my, yeah.
Perfect.
I've seen a lot during my time as a Navy SEAL and a CIA contractor, and I've learned even more hosting this show. The one thing I can tell you for sure is that it pays to be prepared. Right now, with our national debt surging to unfathomable levels, global tension rising, and the corruption in Washington, ask yourself, are you prepared financially? Me? I'm buying gold and silver so I'm not caught off guard by the next recession or global conflict. And I've teamed up with one of the top gold IRA companies, Goldco, to make that happen. So I want you to go to SeanLikesGold.com or call 855-936-GOLD. You'll get a free 2024 wealth protection kit from Goldco, plus you may qualify for up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. So go to SeanLikesGold.com or call 855-936-GOLD and get your bonus silver today. Once again, that's 855-936-GOLD or visit SeanLikesGold.com. Performance may vary. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision. When I first started this whole podcasting thing, an online store was about as far from my mind as you can get. And now, you already know this, but I'm selling Vigilance Elite gummy bears online. We actually have an entire merch collection that's coming soon. And let me tell you, it is so easy because I'm using a platform that is extremely user-friendly, and that's Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business.
Oh my God,
what I
these
really like
ads.
about Shopify is it prompts you all the things that you want to do with your web store, like connect your social media accounts, write blog posts, just have a blog in general. Shopify actually prompts you to do this. You want people to leave reviews under your items? You can do that on Shopify. It's very simple. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to the other leading commerce platforms. Shopify is a global force for millions of entrepreneurs in over 175 countries and power 10% of all e-commerce platforms here in the United States. You can sign up right now for $1 a month at shopify.com/Sean. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Sean now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. That's shopify.com/Sean.
All right, Nick. We're back from the break. You're checking into the regiment. How did that feel coming from brass, walking into the regiment? I'm guessing this is probably around 2005-ish.
Yep.
A very hot time in both wars, both the Afghanistan war and the Iraq war. I'm sure there's a lot of experience coming home that had to be pretty intimidating.
Oh yeah, dude, it was like when you put on that tan beret, you feel like a ranger. You look like a ranger, and I felt like I had really accomplished something, which I did. But
Do you get the tan beret after RAS? When does that happen?
yeah, as soon as you graduate RAS, you get the tan beret. So you start off with the black beret, which used to be the Rangers beret. Then regular Army adopted the black beret. Rangers got the tan. And as soon as you graduate RAS, like you're doing your ceremony, you do your Ranger Creed, and you get your tan beret, and you don your tan beret. And from there, I had to walk across the street through this big privacy brown fence, and like 200 yards away, and that was 3rd Ranger Battalion. So I didn't have to like get on the bus or anything. Just carried my bags, went over to the compound, checked in, got my room, and I had 2 duffel bags, my bed, and some empty drawers in my room, and I lived out those duffel bags like my entire stay at the barracks. But yeah, my first day there, no one was back in battalion. They were all coming back from that deployment, so I had it pretty much to myself for like 2 or 3 days a weekend or so. So I didn't really know what to expect. I sat in my room most of the time and stared at the 4 walls, called family every once in a while.
What's your family think now that you've made it? I mean, it sounds like your parents were really hard on you.
Yeah,
That's
good. I tell you.
It sounded like they were pretty upset that your grades weren't phenomenal.
Yeah.
You weren't a stellar athlete. Forgive me for saying this, I feel the same way about my childhood. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you felt like you were a very unimpressive human being
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you got your tan beret,
Oh wow.
and
No one
how did
was
that
there.
feel to tell your family? Or
No
did
one
you
was
even
there.
care?
Well, they cared to the degree of, well, at first no one thought that I was going to make it. So in basic training, I didn't like it. I didn't like waking up at 4 a.m. I wasn't used to that. I wasn't used to running, rucking, and all that. So I wanted to quit basic training like early on, very early on. And I remember calling home on the payphone on a break we had during basic, and I called my dad on the payphone, and I'm telling him I don't want to be there, and I want to come home, and I was just going through it, and he told me,
Oh, they flanked me.
Mike, no, stick with it, suck it up, I guess. So I never really wanted to be there until like after, I don't know, the first 7 weeks or so out of the 14-week basic is when I kind of, fell in the groove of things, and it was not smooth sailing. I messed up, fractured my tibia fibias and both legs, and it was kind of smooth sailing. They came to that graduation,
To your boot camp, right?
to my boot camp one, and they came to the airborne graduation where I got honor grad. And
You got honor grad.
yeah, from the kid who, like, I still struggle with heights to this day. Anything above 10 feet, it's like, I could black out. I could black out. So it was traumatizing, but it was cool to overcome that. And I don't know if that's why I got honor grad, but I got honor grad and they came to that graduation. And I think that's when the realization of he might actually go through with this. And I became a ranger. And it was like they were happy, but I guess scared at the same time because they knew what comes after that was going to be combat or war. So I think they, at that point, wanted to separate themselves from that. My mom, she claims to this day, or she says that a lot of her depression comes from that time in my life, was the constant deployment. But I just never understood that because I didn't feel that love at home, you know? So when it came time and I actually did become what I've been saying all those years, it was like the realization for everybody kicked in, but it was too late. So
Can we backtrack
Yeah.
just a second? Because excuse my ignorance, sometimes I get it confused between Ranger School and RASP. It sounds like RASP is the biggest kick in the ass out of the two.
100%.
correct?
100%.
So I'd like to revisit RASP. I mean, how long is RASP?
Oh, about a month long.
It's a month.
Yeah. Oh, a RASP now? I'm not sure. It's over a month. When I was
You
going
were in.
through, it was a month. A month. No days
What does
off.
that entail?
Oh yeah, Monday through Monday, physical, like a beatdown. It really kicks off for you guys. You have Hell Week, and for us, we have Cold Range. We march out. I believe it's a 12 to 15-mile ruck to Cold Range, and the time limit given, which was like I forget, 3 hours, 4 hours, and
I forget how to
time
turn it up.
back forward. But we make it there. We march out there. A lot of guys normally don't make the time hack. So you've lost, let's say, 10 guys out of that portion. You get to Cold Range and there's no like facility you live in. It's all outdoors and it's just like Hell Week, I guess, minus the water and all the boat carrying. Like we carry logs and a lot of running, a lot of just physical beatdown. You do land nav, there's no sleep. You sleep maybe out of the 3 days, I believe, 4 days. And we slept once, but it was a short sleep. I remember during Cold Range, it's like mass exodus of guys just quitting. 10 one day, 20 the next day. And for me, it was like, I thought that I was gonna be that guy. Because I looked at everyone else, and like, they're taller, they built like, rest his soul, Pat Tillman. Like, mini Pat Tillmans, like football players that are built good. And I just wasn't built that way of, what I expected a Ranger to be or a Spec Ops guy.
I mean, Rangers do have a stereotype of being skinny,
Yeah.
wiry
And short.
individuals.
Yeah. I've always got SEALs to be the opposite. I think to be a swimmer, I always thought you had to be like Michael Phelps height or whatever. But yeah, I can tell a Ranger out of a crowd. There's a very distinct personality and look. But yeah, so it was just a mass beatdown. And
We're talking like a 90% attrition rate.
yeah, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. And it was the biggest shock for me, but everything was kind of like a blur. It all blurred together of no sleep, little food, and just a continuous beatdown, physical beatdown. Everything's hurting. Everything hurts. You're never on time. Nothing's ever good enough. It was just a massive, a smoke fest. Like you might get put in a room and do push-ups for, I don't know, a few hours until the room sweats. That's what we make it rain. So bunch of guys in a room sweating. It's hot, humid. They crank the air up, turn the heat on, and it's just looks like it rained in there. There's so much sweat all over the place. So sometimes you'd have condensation build up on the walls in a small room. It's stuff like that. A lot of running. It's like every Ranger was a marathon runner. And I was never built to run like that. I could do my 5 mile in 40 minutes. I'm like a 38-minute 5-miler. And that's like my max. The mile runs those guys could do, the fastest I've seen is like a 5:30, 5:20 something, 5:30 something.
Shit.
And fastest I've ever got was like a 6:30. And it was on one occasion, fluke of nature. Maybe the clock was wrong, but that's the fastest I've ever been. I'm normally a 7-minute. But and Rangers just run and run and run, and that's what I didn't like about it. Was that's all we do for PT, and that's all like we focused on was the endurance and long distance running, and I hated that. And ruckman, a lot of physical beatdown, and like I said, by the end of the class, it was dwindled down to 6 guys, and we had the rollover come in the last portion.
Is there any team events?
Are there any team events?
Yeah, in RAS.
Not
It's all
really.
individual.
Yeah, it's pretty much individual. Like especially at land nav and night land nav, and yeah, I would say it's a fair amount of just being by yourself or doing things to a standard just for you, as opposed to a team. And if one guy messed up, then the whole class would get, in trouble for it. But at the end of the day, it came down to just who wanted to quit and who would not quit. We had like one event at Cole Range where we're standing in formation. We had just got done getting our balls smoked off, and we're standing in formation outside of the big tarp trucks, the deuce and a halves, and the instructors are by this big barrel fire, and they're cooking and roasting hot dogs, and they had pizza out there, and they're like, all you have to do is just come over. We know you're hurt, we know you're sucking, it's cold, just come over, got hot coffee, we got pizza and hot dogs for you guys waiting on the other side, but if you come over here, you can't come back. And a few guys left to go get the food, and that was it for them. They told us to all get on the back of the trucks, we're heading back, and they drove around for like 30 minutes, and you think, you lost all concept of time, so you're thinking, oh, we're finally gonna go back and hit the sack for a little bit, at least be in a room on a nice bed. And we drove around for a little bit, and they opened the tarps, and we're still at Cole Range where we started off at. And that was a big demoralizer. So that more guys quit after we arrived back at Cole Range, got smoked some more, got back on the trucks, and then we finally went back to the barracks.
Was there ever a time where you wanted to check out? You wanted to
Every
quit?
day, every day.
What
every
kept you
single
going?
day. Watching other guys quit. I would, I guess, not feed off of it. I guess you could say feed off of it, where at least I wasn't that guy. So if I wasn't that guy, I can go a little bit longer until maybe somebody else quits. They can't have us all quit. I just have to outlast that guy or the next guy or someone else. But every single day I wanted to quit. More so in Ranger School, but every day I wanted to quit. I think I was just too stupid to even do it at the time. Too much ego to get up there, and you get respect for quitting. They respect you, and they don't treat you and call you names, they don't treat you bad. So it was more so of an ego thing of not wanting to quit. But yeah, I wanted to every day.
Interesting. So they make it appealing to quit.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
So that was the biggest thing about RIP. And I think that's what I think made it hard too, is it was different than basic training. You're more on your own, and you're given a set of instructions to do something, and you do it. You're not like in basic training where they hold your hand the whole time. It was different in that aspect too. And just how mean they were. Like, these guys were demonic, it felt like. I was terrified of Rangers going in. I saw a guy with the tambourine. As a kid, avert your eyes, and I would always say to myself, oh my gosh, this guy's probably killed people. And that would terrify me, because a Ranger to me always looked very neat, very, very neat, very well put together. And knowing that this guy, or thinking that, this guy has taken a life, was like weird to me. It scared me. So I was always scared to look these guys in the eye of, that. So I was scared of all my instructors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move forward again.
Mm-hmm.
You checked in. You're at 3rd Ranger Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like when you meet your team?
Terrifying. I heard a mass, like a stampede, coming through the barracks. They're screaming, loud, doors being kicked, and they're screaming, where's the fucking new guy? And I'm huddled in my room, sitting on my bed, terrified. Like, there's no way they're gonna find out I'm in here. And all of a sudden, I lock my door, and I see my door shaking, and they're picking the lock. Then they kick my door open. All these guys come in, and they flood my room with beers in hand. And like, you gotta drink all this. So I'm looking at them like, I'm not even a drinker like that. I had like one Heineken in Airborne, and I hated it. So now I'm stuck with this room full of Rangers shoving beer down my mouth and throat, and let's take that back. That sounds really bad, but they're giving me a bunch of beer and stuff like that to drink, and I remember getting just absolutely shit-faced. And that next morning we had to run like 6 miles and me throwing up. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was just terrifying that these guys, in my mind, all just came back from killing people in war. And
Had
now,
they?
yeah. They were in Afghanistan during that time, and they did a few recovery operations with the SEAL team. And most of the stuff in Afghanistan, that's when they were getting into more the direct action type stuff. So they were
Ran out of bullets.
package and their amount of combat that they did see. Prior to that, it was a lot of working with Delta and pulling security and stuff like that before, I guess they got...
Alright guys, that was my little
Delta.
desert gameplay for the moment while I listened to this podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It was like more so a watch together event. Hit that like, that comment, that subscribe if you want more.
Other building and
All them love buttons for your boy.
working
And I'll
within
see you on the
that
next one.
nature.
Peace out.
Yeah, it was terrifying, but also at the same time, I felt like it was good to be a part of a group like that. I just wasn't sure if I could hang because they were animals, physically fit, and I had no idea if I was going to be able to even keep up with these guys. So I thought my time was going to be short-lived because, like, these guys could be hammered one night and the next